Hi, I'm John Atack,
I'm Sammy Tack.
and we're going to talk about a legendary musician who would have been 74 years old on the 30th of January 2021. Sadly, he died in a fire on the 20th of April 1991, so 30 years ago.
Good.
At the age of just 44.
That's not fair.
It's not fair. So we're going to talk about Steve Marriott. And I've come and gone from his work. When I was 12 or 13, I first heard The Small Faces. You know, In My Mind's Eye, Chiku Park, Lazy Sunday,
Yeah.
Tin Soldier, these really great songs. They were one of the significant bands of the British invasion, as it's called, the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, Traffic. They produced a lot of fine songs. Steve Marriott had been a child star. At the age of 13, he played various parts in the musical of Oliver and ended up singing a couple of the tracks that went onto the album.
Was this at the West End?
Yes, it was in the West End. It was very successful musical that ran for some time. He distressed his parents. His dad had actually got in the audition without telling him. And Marriott already had a band. He had a band at the age of 12.
Wow. I'd like to hear that, little Stevie Marriott.
Little Steve. Well, he never got big. It's the one thing you can say about it. But his family apparently caused a rift when he said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be an actor. And he left the family home as a teenager.
God.
And was in a couple of bands. And then the Small Faces came together in 1965. And perversely, I didn't know this until I went to Wikipedia. He was actually David Bowie in 1964. So 5 years before Space Oddity made Bowie famous. Actually wanted to form a band called David and Goliath with Steve Marriott. Now, David Jones, as he was then, was presumably David. And Steve Marriott, who was not very tall, was going to be Goliath. But he decided to sensibly decided to join the Small Faces instead. They produced, people go on about Tommy by the Who, and I was absolutely besotted with Tommy by the Who. And I know it backwards and sideways. It's a wonderful achievement. But they go rock opera, the first rock opera, and you go, well, what about SF Sorrow by the Pretty Things? Oh, we're not going to talk about that. But a year, almost to the day, on the 24th of May 1968, and Tommy was released on the 23rd of May 1969. So a year before, it had already been satirised. A year before it came out, there is Ogden's Nut Gone Flame with the journey
Much more
to find out why half the moon
is missing.
Half the moon and Dangley has been taken away. Now, for anybody who doesn't know Ogden's Nut Gone Flake, you can go onto YouTube and you can actually find the professor himself, Stanley Unwin, the last survivor of the English Music Hall in 1968, narrating the Once Upon a Toddy Tito. Are you sitting comfortable? This amazing language that he'd produced. We've already talked about him elsewhere. We talked about Rex the Runt in a video, which was, 30-something years later. And Unwin was around about 100 years old by this time. And again, does this brilliant voice. Johnny Savaloy stole my voice. Wonderful man. But it's a great little story. It
has the meaning of life in it.
It has the meaning of life in it, which is life is just a bowl of all bran. You wake up every morning and it's there. So live as best as you can. It's all around, enjoy it, because ever since you saw it, there ain't no one can take it away. As with, the Kinks or with the Who, with the Beatles, with the Stones, there's always that kind of edge of Gilbert and Sullivan or indeed of music hall that's going on. The Beatles, a song like Rocky Raccoon, or Honey Pie, or there are so many songs that seem to have these cheeky references. Well, none more than the Small Faces. We're going to interject, if we can, a track which is called Need Your Love, which many people won't have heard. Now, what's astonishing about this track to anybody who has ever heard of Led Zeppelin is that it should be known that Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, when they were forming the band, wanted Steve Marriott to be the singer.
Yeah.
He was their first choice. Keith Moon was the drummer, the original drummer, and Marriott was going to be the singer. But Marriott decided that he would actually form Humble Pie instead, and who were almost as successful as Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
They did 22 tours of the US in a 5-year period, somewhat exhausted, very popular. But I kind of wonder if Page and Jones didn't sit down with Robert Plant and say, can you make it sound like this? And played him a copy of Need Your Love, and you'll see what I mean.
And suddenly it's finale time. This is where we hear one more number from each of our guests on today's show. And first, the Small Faces, who say, You Need Love.
I remember when I think you're listening to Marriott. This was about a year ago, and suddenly realizing that it sounds just like the Plank.
It's a track I'd never heard before, and it's one of the early Small Faces tracks. And it's just that, and they claim they wrote it. It's actually a Muddy Waters song. Led Zeppelin claimed they wrote Whole Lot of Love. It's there's we talked about Lying Elsewhere and how bad it is. But Need Your Love, you'll hear the vocal tricks that Robert Plant would use. They were recording their last album, The Autumn Stone, when Steve Marriott just one day went, I'm not doing this anymore. So the album actually wasn't properly finished. I think to the intense disappointment of the rest of the band. Brilliant band, all of them fine players. Kenny Jones, the drummer, would later go on to replace Keith Moon in The Who, which is a job you can't envy anybody. No. He didn't really manage it, but who could? Simon Phillips did pretty well. And I think they've got Ringo's son, who was actually taught by Keith Moon, playing drums for them now. Not by his dad. He was that busy drinking with Keith Moon most of the time. So in between times, when Humble Pie ended their first stint, which was in 1975, Steve Marriott recorded an album in his own studio using 3 members of King Crimson, which is quite interesting.
Yes.
Ian Wallace, Boz, and the astonishing Mel Collins
Yes.
playing saxophones, who's back with King Crimson now,
Yes,
all these years
absolutely.
later, and they're absolutely brilliant, and we recommend them.
He was the star when we.
They were all the
I mean,
stars.
yeah, absolutely.
Gavin Harrison's playing, and you know, just amazing, and always Robert Fripp, and you know,
Tony Levin.
Totally
God.
Levin. I mean, you're not going to get any better than that. There isn't anything better than that.
No.
But so he recorded an album with those people on, and various other people who wandered through. Jimmy McCulloch, who was the guitar player with Wings, so we don't mention them, and died of a heroin overdose. And his brother Henry McCulloch was in the Grease Band with Joe Cocker. There's a useless
yes.
piece of information. He gets all of these people together, records an album which has some really good tracks on it,
Yes, yeah,
and some
absolutely.
really odd tracks on it. He was always doing the Cockney geezer stuff as well, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Took it to A&M Records and said, "Here you go. Now this is one of the most successful people in the world. Humble Pie have just been," and they go, "No, we're not releasing it." So the album's called "Lend Us a Quid" because he ran out of money, and he toured again, 75 to 78 with the Small Faces. Then there was another version of Humble Pie. Humble Pie originally had the great Peter Frampton playing guitar and singing alongside Marriott. Jerry Shirley playing drums, wonderful drummer. Then Clem Clemson left Colosseum, and I went to the same school as Clem Clemson. I never met him. He's only a few years older than me, but I don't remember him at all. And Jeremy Spencer was Fleetwood Mac was the same. We were all there. I didn't become a famous guitar player though. Somehow.
No, you should have done.
I should have done. That would have been the
I
career.
accidentally.
I wouldn't have to do
under
this
your
stuff if I had.
Facebook account. Put a comment on Peter Frampton's Facebook site asking for help.
Good.
No, that's a useless piece of information.
That is a useless piece of information, but we thank you for it nonetheless.
Yeah.
It shows you're engaging. You know?
Yeah, I'm contributing.
In 1996, 5 years after his death, Steve Marriott was given the Ivor Novello Award for his contributions to music. He's also in the Hall of Fame
Cool.
for rock music. Ozzy Osbourne, the man who went, "Sharon, what have you given me a bubble machine for? I'm supposed to be the Prince of Darkness."
Yeah.
And is notorious for biting the heads off bats, given the Vegas chance, said that Steve Marriott was the 4th greatest singer ever.
Yeah, he was the first, obviously.
I don't know, who else is it? I mean, there's Otis, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles,
Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore,
I don't know who that is.
Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, yeah, we'll just throw him in there. Probably the greatest singer ever to come out of Oxford.
Yeah.
There's Steve Marriott is
Joe
most
Cocker.
certainly up there with Joe Cocker, Jack Bruce, Steve Winwood, the great singers. He became completely disillusioned with the music business, and my partner said she saw him playing in a pub in London,
Cool.
and he wasn't particularly good that night, and ended by singing "All or Nothing" 3 times over.
Yes.
What a great
That's gonna
song!
be good.
though.
Yeah.
And what you going to do about it? Those original, beautiful songs. His final band you can find on YouTube. Amazing. What's it? 5 years. The thing about his girlfriend leaving him after 5 years. It's the band is called Packet of Three, which is a reference to a packet of condoms, and again has Jerry Shirley, the wonderful Humble Pie drummer, in it. And by this time, I mean, Dan, your younger brother, is a great guitar player, and he stops and watches when Marriott's playing because Marriott became a really accomplished rock guitar player, one of the great voices. So if the copyright will allow us, we will play out with the wonderful Small Faces song Afterglow, and bask in the afterglow of Steve Marriott's genius. So happy birthday, mate. Sorry you're not here.
Yeah. God.
I'm John Atack.
I'm Sammy Tack.
just for you. You know that when I love you, you know that knows that there's never any end. Know that she'll be Love is all around me, everywhere. Love has come to touch my soul with someone who really cares. No one can deny us. People who once passed me by will turn their heads round. I'm happy just to be with you and loving you the way I do. There's everything I need to know, just resting in the afterglow of your night. Yes, you have always been here, feeling deep inside, a feeling that I could not see or touch or try to hide. My love is in and around you. Hey, I bless the day that